Philosia question of the day is what is a book that I would recommend, and how has this book influenced my life? And so the book that I want to bring into the discussion, something that probably nobody's ever heard about, or very few people have heard about, and that is a book by Marie Winn called Red Tails in Love. And this is a naturalist's book, and it's basically it's set in New York City, and it's about a woman who comes to appreciate the nature in Central Park. And what you find is that Central Park, like most urban parks and urban areas in general, is just absolutely full of wildlife that most people never notice. In fact, you usually will find more wildlife in an urban area than you'll ever find in a national forest. There's a lot of things that I like about this book, a lot of ways that it's influenced me. One of the things that attracted me to it right off the start is that it's about red-tailed hawks, and when I was growing up, between the time I was 12 and 18 years old, I had a very special relationship with a red-tailed hawk. So that was one of the things that attracted me to it. The other thing was that it took place in Central Park, and I have a connection with New York City. It's very fond. I'm very fond of New York City. I spent some months there living on City Island in the Bronx, and I brought my then girlfriend over to stay with me there, and we ended up eloping and getting married while we were there, and I'm still married, and it's closing in on coming ever closer to being 2 decades of being married. So yeah, to me, New York City and Central Park, and red-tailed hawks, I'm very fond of all of them, and so there was attraction to me with these books. But then, when I read it, what amazed me is that it's basically this is a book written by somebody as they're coming into an appreciation of nature. It's really beautiful to see that world open up to them. So one of the things, you get several things out of the book. One of the things that I think you'll come to appreciate out of the book is greater awareness of surroundings, because a lot of people don't pay any attention to the nature around them. It's all around them all the time, every day. Every time you walk outside, there's tons of nature there, and species you wouldn't expect. I mean, people think you have to go to national parks and stuff to see amazing animals. No, there are really incredible species that people would consider rare wildlife in all of our urban areas. And so, one of the things that this book does very well is it shows you actually a whole community of people that Marie kind of infiltrates and becomes a part of. There's a whole community of people in Central Park. It is a small community, but there is a community who are very aware of the nature there. Yeah, and so through what they're doing, as she goes through various stories, in their learning of the wildlife in Central Park, you also get kind of a secondhand learning of how to become more aware of your own surroundings. Another thing that I think you get out of the book that I think is very important is inquiry-based learning in general. I mean, a lot of people today, I think our school systems are failing us because they teach our children that research means you go to the library and you look something up, or you go online and you look something up and you read about it, and then you write about what you've read about. That's not research, that's just reading. And so what Marie Winn does very well is shows how to do real research, which is you're in a scenario, something happens that you don't understand, and so you develop a question out of that, one or more questions, and you pursue those questions, and you learn something new. And it's not necessarily something somebody else already knows. Somebody else might know it, but it's new to you anyway. And you do that research firsthand. And so you come to embody that research. And to me, I think that's pure learning. I mean, when I think about, like, the analogy I would say would be, you have a martial artist who never creates anything of their own, who is never, I mean, yeah, there's only so much you can create. We only got this limited body and all. But if they just stick to things that they've learned and never experiment at all on their own, there's no free, formless flow. There's no experimentation. There's no thinking. It's just taking what's been given to them and recycling that in their own lives. To me, then where's the art, right? And it's the same with learning and research. You know, one of the things that shocked me as an educator myself, I taught a master's cohort one semester that were getting their master's in education, and I had science teachers among this group who had no idea how to do inquiry-based learning. And that's just like simple child's play stuff. I mean, children do it all the time. Something they don't understand, develop a question, ask it, pursue it, find an answer. And so Marie Winn does this very well, and I appreciate that. So you can't help but read the book and start thinking more for yourself. Another thing that it does is it shows individual animals. You really come to know some of the animals there. For instance, there's a hawk called Pale Male, who's kind of the central figure of the whole book, and it's about him and his spouses, but then all the rest of the nature in Central Park as well. But it really follows Pale Male. You come to know the animals have individuality too, and we kind of know this. I mean, in Western society, except that we only know it really if we're, either if we're dealing with domesticated animals of some sort. But when it comes to wild animals, we often see them just as members of a species, and we don't think about them as individuals. And Marie does a very good job of showing how the animals in Central Park are individuals and how you can learn from them as individuals. I'm kind of getting a kick out of Derek here. This Derek's so skinny, a magpie, and he's obviously giving you his Philosia at the same time I'm giving you mine. Anyway, if I had to recommend one book, I've read lots and lots of books in my life. I've at times been a very prolific reader, and if I had to recommend one book that I thought everybody should read, it should be Red Tails in Love. And if you read that book and you go to New York City, you have an opportunity to actually kind of become a part of it, because Marie Winn does run a blog now, and there's still an ongoing, learning community there around the nature in Central Park. And my last visit there, I went there to do a keynote talk at Columbia University. And while I was there, I went to Central Park, and I went to the boathouse in the evening, and I met up with a bunch of the guys and gals who are the older people, retirees, who are part of this book, who are part of Red Tails in Love, part of that learning community. And it was so awesome getting to meet them, and not only them, but I got to meet some of the animals I'd come to know through the book. So I got to meet Pale Male, I got to meet Pale Beauty, I got to meet several of the hawks that had come from this couple that was written about in the book. And I got to do a little bit of other nature touring while I was there. So for me, I really appreciate it. I enjoy that my world is expanded beyond just human beings, and I encourage other people to tap into that broader ecological world as well, because I think it helps you be a more complete, more full human being. So that's my recommendation.